Oh, good job.
You got it. Say that one more time, Mary, for the recording.
I just said that we talked about enjoying reading the kind of details of the families and the things they said to one another and the things that they did, which is more detail than a different kind of detail than we get in the other, in the Bible scripture.
That's right. I believe you got so if you got through chapter 8, by the way, you would have caught up to the reading that is found in our lectionary, and it's part of our wedding rites. Did you? I don't know if you talked about that last week. You did?
Yeah,
did.
Oh, good, Brendan, you were
He
on
did a
it.
good job.
Yeah. Beautiful lesson and all. Any other kind of thoughts or feedback thus far?
Last week, we were talking about just how fantastical and wild the story is, that we have no idea what to expect next with, like
Right.
magical fish and I don't know, it's strange, but really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's unlike let's say a gospel where how the ending's going to come out. This is going to be a lot more interesting. I don't even know how the ending's going to come out, so this is great. All right, well, why don't we begin with chapter 9? Since I still have the floor, I'm going to keep talking in Robert's Rules because I've been doing Robert's Rules for 5 days with 1,200 of my friends. So while the chair still has the floor, I'll go ahead and start reading chapter 9. Then Tobias called Raphael and said to him, "Brother Azariah, take 4 servants and 2 camels with you and travel to Rages. Go to the home of Gabael. How have you all been saying that name, by the way?
Yeah.
Gabael? It's probably Gabael. Go to the home of Gabael, give him the bond, get the money, and then bring him with you to the wedding celebration. For you know that my father must be counting the days, and if I delay even one day, I will upset him very much. You are witnesses to the oath Ragel has sworn, and I cannot violate his oath." So Raphael, with the 4 servants and 2 camels, went to Rages in Media and stayed with Gabael. Raphael gave him the bond and informed him that Tobit's son Tobias had married him and was inviting him to the wedding celebration. So Gabael got up and counted out to him the money bags with their seals intact. Then they loaded them on the camels. In the morning, they both got up early and went to the wedding celebration. When they came into Ragel's house, they found Tobias reclining at table. He sprang up and greeted Gabael, who wept and blessed him with the words, "Good and noble son of a father good and noble, upright and generous. May the Lord grant the blessing of heaven to you and your wife, and to your wife's father and mother. Blessed be God, for I see in Tobias the very image of my cousin Tobit." Short chapter.
Is Tobias still on his quest to get Tobit's riches? I wasn't there last week, so that quest that his dad sent him out on, and his mom was like, "Don't you dare send him out."
Is this the money he's trying to get? Was
The
it
money, the
that
bags, I don't know.
David's
Wasn't he
saying yes.
supposed to go?
Yeah, I think so. He's gone to Gabael to
So
get the money.
Tobias is still on his
Right.
quest.
So that's his quest when he gets there, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
He
I
was
think
supposed
so.
to go collect his dad's
money,
money.
right? Am I following that right?
I think you're right.
So he now is successful. And he got married along the way.
I don't think that was supposed to be in the plan, though, was it?
The marrying?
We're getting married.
I guess as long as it was someone he wasn't related, as long as it was someone he was related to,
Mhm.
Right,
that he.
right.
We're keeping track of this. We're doing good.
Doing great.
I think
David?
Tobias sent Tobit to marry his cousin as well, when they were picking up the
So-
money too. It was a dual journey. And he sent the angel in disguise that's taking a pseudonym, the angel Raphael that's taking a different pseudonym.
Sorry.
As
So-
you do.
Yeah, this has some really mythic elements, some really interesting mythical elements to it that aren't much like some of the elements in the Bible. There are some of the same stories about marrying a relative and things like this, but when you start talking about catching a fish and using the fish to, and it's a dual purpose fish, it both drives off the demon when they burn it and smoke it at during the wedding night, so Tobias doesn't die, and then they use the rest of it. They'll use it. We'll see as they go home. They'll use the rest of it to cure Tobit's blindness. Remove the scales from his eye.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm reminded of the kind of lesson we learned with Jonah, which is, not every book of the Bible is purporting to be a historical narrative, not far from it. They're just trying to tell a story and entertain in some ways. And it's a little bit like how Brendan at least will appreciate this, when Star Wars fans start to quibble about episode 8 and all of the things that happen with somebody can now project an image of themselves through the Force. That was apparently a deal breaker for a lot of fans. They jumped ship. I thought it was like, well, it works for me. And then the argument then to all the people that were angry and said it's the worst thing that's ever happened to Star Wars, you go, it is also a fantasy that takes place in another galaxy. So if you're looking for rules of the universe, sorry, you came to the wrong genre. So
It's
I'm pretty
Space
sure
Wizard with
that's
laser
not the worst
swords.
thing.
yes.
I think the worst thing was probably the midi-chlorians, but yeah, this may be a close
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, I'm a defender of episode 8. I thought it was a fabulous movie, so. But apparently it broke Star Wars. So we're back. So yeah, so you just have to take some of the fantasy elements with a grain of salt here, right? For sure.
I just realized they had their wedding feast the day after they consummated their wedding. So they didn't have the party until after.
That's a good way to do it.
Have it the next day, especially since they weren't sure whether he was going to be alive or not.
why waste a party?
Right. What if there's no chemistry? Why go through with it? Right.
Well,
Good
they
point.
filled up the grave and had the party because they weren't sure they were going to still have a bridegroom. Yeah, so.
Exactly.
It would have been hard to sneak out the body if they'd had the party first. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone would have known about him.
Yeah, and it happened 7 times before, so yeah, it's not like this was without precedent for something bad to happen when you have a demon that's enamored of you. Yeah, so.
All right. Would anyone like to read into chapter 10? If you got one. I'm looking for a spot where you could break it. Probably after verse 7.
Yeah, mine has a break there.
Yeah. 1 to 7. These are long verses.
I will.
Oh, great.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank
Mary.
you,
To
Mary.
verse 7.
Verse 7. Okay. Tobit, his father, counted every day. When the days of the journey were expired and they didn't come, he said, is he perchance detained? Or is Gabriel perchance dead? And there is no one to give him the money. He was very grieved. But his wife said to him, the child has perished, seeing he waits long. She began to bewail him and said, I care about nothing, my child, since I have let you go, the light of my eyes. Tobit said to her, hold your peace, don't worry, he is in good health. You want me to read verse 7 too? I didn't know that.
Yeah, go ahead, because it's kind of its own thought.
Yeah, and she said to him, hold your peace, don't deceive me, my child has perished. And she went out every day into the way by which they went and ate no bread in the daytime and didn't stop bewailing her son Tobias for whole nights until the 14 days of the wedding feast were expired, which Raguel had sworn that he should spend there. Is that, I can't see on my, oh, there. Then Tobias said to Raguel, send me away, for my father and my mother look no more to see me. But his father-in-law said to him, "Stay with me, and I will send to your father, and they will declare to him how things go with you." Tobias said, "No, send me away to my father." I think I should stop there if that's what you
Probably,
want.
yeah.
So
I
they're-
like your translation.
They're pretty trusting of him. I mean, the first thing they think when he's late is that he got detained or he got killed, but they don't think, oh, he ran off with all the money on it for himself.
Yeah,
Or that he got married and had to have a feast.
Right, right.
yeah. If you've been a parent of a child that didn't come home on time, it's
It's like, where's my
it's a
money?
universal problem. It's been that they've had it as for a long time of just kids are supposed to be back when they're supposed to. No cell phones to text
I
them
feel
back.
sorry
then.
for moms in the Bible too, because I feel like they're put into a bigger test than the
Mhm.
dads, because they worry about their kids, you
Mhm.
know. And
Absolutely.
Sarah was like chasing after Abraham because she knew he was gonna use Israel for the sacrifice, and you know, now this mom is like, well, my kid's gonna he's dead.
Yeah, Tobit is concerned and kind of names it out loud. I wonder if he's gonna come back. And it just says in my text, he begins to worry, but then Anna jumps a leap
Yes.
all the way to nope, he's dead.
Yeah.
And woe to me, and you know, and it's I have a mother like that. That's kind of what I'm saying. That would have overreacted.
Yeah.
It's it. He's
It's in
dead.
their blood. It's in their
Yeah.
blood.
It's very
Some people always
convicting for me because Daisy's been at camp since Sunday and I haven't heard anything from her. And they post pictures and I found her in the background looking miserable. And I'm convinced like this
She's
is
not having a good
traumatic.
time.
I was like, I was weeping and wailing and refusing bread.
Oh
And then
no.
this morning there was one where she's smiling. So I'm like, oh, okay. But yes, this is very convicting for the anxious mothers.
I think she just doesn't like to be photographed. It's probably
No, I
Well,
think she
I would-
probably had a hard first day, but
I was in the opposite position. My mother was really worried about me when I went in the army. I didn't write home at all. And, you know, I was 24 years old. And so I was kind of pretty independent by that point. And I didn't even think of writing home. And actually my parents were really concerned. And so somehow they got word that I hadn't heard about it through the recruiter. And they contacted my drill sergeant,
Oh.
and he contacted me and said, you need to write home to your parents. And I got
Darn, Leslie,
Told-
you're busted.
told out. So I did. I wrote home, and actually, I still think I have some of those letters. When my mom died, I was able
You
to.
never stop worrying about them, even when they're 40 and 45 years old. And I'm like,
And late 50s. Yeah.
exactly. You never-
Climbing in the mountains in
never-
California.
never
Haven't
stop
heard. Are
worrying
they out
about
there
'em.
still? Yeah.
You're
And then I get a
convinced
phone call.
that- Yeah. Well,
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
Everybody's fine.
so this is a very human experience.
Exactly.
And so I wonder what's gonna happen to her.
All
This is
right.
what's neat about Tobit.
Mary,
It's almost like a novel.
it
Yeah,
really
I'm really
is.
enjoying it.
Mary, would you like to read the rest of the chapter for us too?
Sure.
Kind of stick with your translation. It's great.
Raguel arose and gave him Sarah, his wife, and half his goods, servants and cattle and money. And he blessed them and sent them away, saying, the God of heaven will prosper you, my children, before I die. And he said to his daughter, honor your father-in-law and your mother-in-law. They are now your parents. Let me hear a good report of you. Then he kissed her. Edna said to Tobias, may the Lord of heaven restore you, dear brother, and grant to me that I may see your children of my daughter Sarah, that I may rejoice before the Lord. Behold, I commit my daughter to you in special trust. Don't cause her grief.
You have more? I guess that's it.
Everything
That's
is
the
right to the
end of
point in
chapter
her
10 with my-
translation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mine's much
Your-
more
your
verbose.
I mean, Greg, what is your translation? It has more to it.
Yeah, it just says, let's see. From now on, I am your mother and Sarah is your beloved wife. May we all prosper together all the days of our lives. Then she kissed them both and saw them safely off, etc., etc. Finally, he blessed Regel and his wife Edna and said, I have been commanded by the Lord to honor you all the days of my life.
Okay.
And they're on their way to Nineveh.
Nineveh, is that where they went?
That's where Jonah was going
Mhm.
to.
Or
Right.
was supposed to go, yes. Ultimately, he did, yes, you're right. But resisted.
Israel's not a very big country.
It's not. Well, when you're walking on foot, it's gigantic, yeah.
Mm.
We're traveling by camel.
It
I don't
seems
think
like,
camels walk too fast.
oh, sorry, Leslie, what were you saying?
I just said I don't think camels walk too fast.
Oh.
No, they don't. Comfortable, but
They got a
Slow.
long stride though.
It seems like death is a theme, and this death is just so present with all of the characters. I don't really know what to make of it. I know that it was a different time and lifespans were different, and death probably just was more present. But it's just interesting that it comes up with basically everyone, that, you know, Anna is worried about her son being dead, and then oh no, wait, is that the right person? I'm getting all my characters mixed
so
up.
you're right.
Tobias's wife was
Anna,
worried
yep.
about, okay, was worried about Tobit being dead. And then Tobit's in-laws are worried about dying before seeing a grandchild. And then, you know, earlier in the story, we had all the graves. So I don't know, just an observation.
You're right.
But I think death was more prevalent that time. Women died in childbirth, children died in childbirth, or they didn't live past 5. They could have been, you know, attacked by robbers on their trip home. Who knows? I mean, especially if Tobias is carrying
Yeah.
a bunch of money.
Yeah, I think it's really, I sort of wish that we lived in a culture where we were not denying death our whole lives until death is facing us. So when I read this, I'm thinking about that we don't necessarily want to consider it until we have to.
I think it's because we don't know what is. I mean, we kind of have been told what to hope for, but we don't really know what's beyond death. So it's scary. It's like, is that really what's going to happen? Or,
Mhm.
you know, have I done enough to be on the heaven side? Or,
Right.
you know, so I think people don't like talking about things that they don't know what they're talking about.
And
I
they
think
were,
that's one reason why, I mean, church hasn't been like, Grace hasn't been like this, but knowing that somebody has cancer and they're uncomfortable, you know, talking to, I mean, I've experienced that a little bit, but since I don't have a whole pile of friends, most of them are fine talking to me, but I think that's a real common reaction, because if you do confront that with somebody else, it brings up the subject for yourself, you know, and that's a good observation. That's true.
Right.
I think-
You don't want to put your foot in your mouth either. Say
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
wrong.
True.
Go ahead, David.
I think people are more isolated from the whole death process and even the sickness process. Now we send people to hospitals. They quietly die in a hospital.
Yeah.
The mortician picks them up. And we, you know, right then, you know, someone died, their family took care of them and buried them within a day or two. You know, I don't remember the exact how long it takes. It was like, I don't remember if it's a day or 3 days for the Jewish, in the Jewish tradition, they had to be buried. It was done by the families. And so now we're more isolated from that. And of course, the medical situation was quite different then. You know, people died suddenly for all sorts of reasons. Now, you know, someone dies, it's kind of unexpected. And, you know, people don't expect it. But then, you know, you could just die of any number of causes with no, you know. So yeah, the whole death experience is much closer to them than it is to us. In fact, that's even true for me anyway, in terms of when I was younger. You know, we had a lot of older people in our church. We would go to the funeral home, we'd stay for the wake. And I remember that's some of my earliest memories of being a child and being in the funeral home and being part of the whole grieving process. And now everything seems so shortened and, just a brief time. Yeah. I went to one funeral where they had to wake or, visitation right before the funeral. And after that, everyone was sitting there and they closed the coffin right then in front of everybody.
Oh.
I
Wow.
thought the place was going to go up for grabs. It was just so traumatic for people. They're so divorced from the concept of death. The finality of it just hit them. That's not something we're too used to.
Do you think that has changed due to the pandemic over the last 2 years, that people are much more aware of death and a lot of people are more familiar with it? I can tell a hospice nurse, family reactions to death. When I was doing this, we had a lot of family members that did not want to remember their loved ones as they were close to the time of death. They wanted to remember them as vibrant.
And
Right.
of course, on the other hand, some people weren't able to be with people as they died through the early parts of COVID. Their loved ones died and they weren't able to be there. They were standing outside the room or listening to a telephone or something like that, but they weren't able to even be part of that whole death process because of the strict regulations with COVID.
Or even be in another state and not be able to be with them.
Mhm.
I think that's why, like, a sudden death is a lot harder to, I actually find that I don't, having taken care of my mom, her being ill and not vibrant, I found when I started really thinking about it, was a blessing, because I want to remember her as the vibrant woman she was. And when at the end, it helped me to detach from her, because I would have been a basket case otherwise if she had just suddenly died and was this vibrant woman that everybody loved and thought was great. And, but as watching her become more and more fragile and just losing her vitality and her will to live, it just helped me to detach. So people shouldn't be afraid of that. I think it was a blessing for me.
I was thinking as well that in this particular time, the whole concept of what happens when you die is different too. Our culture is largely Christian. We believe after death that we'll see our loved ones in heaven. It wasn't quite the same then. There wasn't the idea of resurrection in the same way. Everyone died. They went to this gray place called Sheol. It was kind of a place of isolation, and it's not a vibrant afterlife existence. It was a real, even for good people, it was not a place you wanted to go, or a place you wanted, where you wanted to be. So the whole idea of death didn't have the idea of resurrection and the reunion and the spending time together in eternity. Death was kind of it was a dividing line. Yeah. So.
I wonder if it was also more focused on maintaining your family line then, because I think now when someone dies, I'm not sure that there's the same focus on, but my name will continue. It's sort of, we're just an individual and we're here and then we're gone. And I see a lot in the reading about, now he's married and you'll have children and whatever happens to me, it'll be okay because our family is going to continue.
Well, I think that's pretty obvious when Tobit tells him he's got to marry his cousin.
Right?
It's like, we'll keep it all in the family here.
Yeah. This discussion is really great. Thanks, Lauren, for bringing it up. I think I'm thinking of how Tobit began with him, getting in trouble for burying people.
Right.
So you're right that death has kind of a shadow over it all, but it's not necessarily a scary thing as we tend to think of it. It's just a part of life. And I'm reminded, my anecdote is something priests have to do when we're in training, which we have to, while we're in seminary, we do a unit in the hospital as a chaplain. And I remember, it's just stuck with me ever since. It's just one of these things when the supervisor told our group that whenever we tried to write about a death that had happened in the hospital, we had to do reports like, every couple of weeks. and like essays and just stuff and process how we were feeling in kind of like a group setting. And he said there was a rule, and he would, every time somebody would say, Mrs. Jones passed away at blah, 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 and he would just stop and interrupt and goes, say, Mrs. Jones died. You know, we have a problem with saying passed away. It's like we're afraid to even say the word died.
Mm.
And he said, you have to confront it and you have to name it. And I always think of that too. And when I catch myself wanting to say so-and-so has passed away, that it sometimes makes the grieving process more difficult when you are breaking the news to somebody that somebody's died. If you say they passed away, can sometimes take people longer to come to terms with it.
I think it kind of depersonalizes people too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the end of an era, or, you know, you don't give them
Right.
their humanity. They just passed away, you know, like,
No, yeah.
like the smoke in the wind. It's just so.
So it's hard. It's a very hard Western culture, Western modern culture with medicine. And you know, religions that don't all agree of what happens when we die, to just kind of avoid naming it and talking about it, you know, when it's really just part of life and it's the only thing certain for all of us.
I think we all have trouble talking about everything, not
True.
just death.
I think you're right
A
about
lot
that.
of the hard,
Yeah.
the hard topics are hard to talk about, and nobody wants to broach them. So
Well, what's great, and I think David was talking about too, is this is a window into how people dealt with it in antiquity, you know, and the worry, all these emotions are in print here, which is just beautiful. The worry, the lamenting, you know, and just the outpouring of grief as a way of processing the
Well,
reality of death is just
Middle
so
Eastern-
amazing.
Middle Eastern people still, I mean, the women are like, you know, you see them at a funeral and they're all, I don't know, this wail thing that goes up. and
Yeah.
They still do that.
Yeah, and it's not just humans, you know. I was reading something, or maybe I caught it on TV, of just how like herds of lions grieve or something. It
Well,
was
even
something like that.
elephants, yeah,
Elephants, that's it.
elephants.
Yeah,
And crows do that.
cats,
Yeah.
domesticated house cats. You know, when you've got. I couldn't find my cat when I got one of my two when I got home yesterday. I was like, "This is it. She's dead." She's died. She's hiding. I know Lauren did, but no, I just was
Did you
like,
find
she died of heart. She finally made herself known. She's just a really good hider. But I knew that she was alive because the other cat wasn't emotional. He would walk, if she was dead, he would walk around just whining and wailing, you know. And it's just a part of creatures. Yeah.
Yeah, I had two dogs, and when one of them passed away, the other one was really clingy for a
Yeah,
while. I mean,
depressed.
couldn't let me out of his sight, and he was just really like,
It's really true.
where's Holly?
Yeah.
Maybe saying passed away is a more human thing of saying died. When you say died, it's like,
So final.
It's so final.
it's a
Right.
kind of harsh.
It's a very human thing.
Look at what we're
Depends on who
doing
you're-
with animals now. They go over the rainbow bridge.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
Exactly.
Other
And I
things
put
wanna-
I
like rainbows.
promise we'll move on after this, but I had to put a dog down and I couldn't stay. I just didn't want to see it. And now I've heard later that you can't, that's actually, the animals can be in distress if the owner's not with them when they're being put down. So
It's rough.
I'm sorry, Rouser. But, because I couldn't deal with it. And that's the thing. It's like, if we had a culture that could deal with death a little more.
well, I had a dog I had put
Face
down,
off.
and I couldn't leave her, and she was very calm. And I just sat and held her head and talked to her the whole time while he was injecting her. I said, "You're gonna be no more pain soon." And,
Yeah,
she was
exactly.
just really calm.
And that's important when somebody's dying from a disease or illness or something in the hospital. It really, I've seen it happen in the room. But the idea of family trying to gather and be there for that moment is really important to the person who's dying, and often helps them let go instead of wait until everybody's visited one-on-one, and stuff like that.
Well, Susan would be able to tell you, I worked hospice too, and a lot of times people, they have, even with their comatose, there's something that they're waiting for. They have a hard time letting go if something has not been finished.
Right.
They're waiting for a child to come in from out of town, or,
Yeah.
or they're needing permission from somebody say, I'll be fine, you may go, you
Right.
know, they're waiting for you to give them permission.
And what's Susan, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just said I feel so privileged to be able to have this conversation with two hospice nurses on the call. I
Exactly.
mean, it's just, you guys have such insight into this.
Mhm.
And if our priorities were straight, you guys would make millions of dollars doing that work because
Yeah.
it's just so,
Sorry.
I know in our
nurses are
family,
never gonna
hospice
make
has
millions of
been
dollars.
such a gift. It's just such a crucial part of life to have that at the end. So
Mhm.
I just want to thank you too. It's cool to have
Amen.
these conversations with you guys here.
Amen.
I have to say that for me, it's really good to hear you talking, you know, about this, because lots of times people don't want to talk about it, and it seems like a more natural thing. And, you know, I don't know what my timeline is. I put it in God's hands, but hearing you talk about it from another perspective is really kind of cool for me.
Yeah.
I am going to make a motion that we actually not continue on it, and I'm going to occupy the rest of the time to give you a point of privilege and explain. Let me tell you two little things, if that's all right. Because it really looks like, I just peeked ahead at chapter 11. It really looks like it's kind of a change of scenery and thought. So we should say that for next time. Unfortunately, next time is going to have to be 2 weeks from now, because next week is Vacation Bible School, and most everyone here is involved in some way. If not, your children are.
And if not, you're welcome to be.
And if not, please come, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have the bandwidth or the availability for it. So we're going to be off next week, and I'll send a reminder next week and put it in the announcements too. And then we'll resume with the journey back to Nineveh on whatever the last Wednesday of July is. I guess I could do the math. 27th.
Mhm.
And then also I want to put in a plug. You may have talked about it here before, and Susan can probably speak to more of it, but we are now open enrollment for the second cohort of EFM. Some of you have heard about it. Some of you have already been pulled aside by me in coffee hour to say, I want you to think about it. And I can't promise I won't continue to do that. I can't speak highly enough of this program. It is a commitment, though. It's 4 years. It is each year you do a different, each cohort in each year does a different topic. Old Testament year 1, New Testament year 2, theology, I think year 3, and church history year 4. And the idea is that as each cohort moves on to their second year, you are adding in or folding in new people in the next cohort who are starting with their year 1 and year 2. And so the group ends up being a mosaic of people learning different things at the same time and kind of sharing what they're learning and vice versa and all. And it's just a wonderful program. It's been a part of the Episcopal Church for almost 20 years now. And Sewanee designs it. It's intended for the laity to get some of the meaty training, the non-practical training from seminary, so that you really feel like you can become kind of an expert.
Can we become a deacon?
You can become a deacon. You can always become a deacon. I can pitch that later. Perfect timing. So I want you all to really consider it. There is a cost involved, and I'm happy to cover the cost because it's that important. So,
Is it a big
well,
cost?
when I say I mean the church will cover the cost, because we're trying to get to the max number, which is 12. And the last year, I can't speak for the coming year when it starts again in September. They met on Wednesday nights for, and I think 2 hours, and it's exclusively on Zoom. So this crowd would be really good at that for the most part.
Yeah.
Susan, do you want to add anything else to it? Because Susan was in the first cohort.
I was, and we chewed through the Old Testament. I wish I had known about Holy Imagination before
Good.
because she does explain that really so well. So there is outside help available. And if year 1 comes on, those of us who have moved on to 2 can remember year 1. But besides reading through the Bible, they pose questions as to challenges and achievements and wins that you've had in your life, on a church level, on a personal level. What has your culture given you? What is your Christian culture giving you? And it's really kind of interesting how it's all folded together. It would have been nice to have David in there as we did all of this Old Testament.
No pressure.
But, you know, we learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to the New Testament, and I'll have a foot up on that.
That's right. So think about it, and then, and I really want you to prayerfully consider it, because everyone here would really get a lot out of it and add a lot to the group too. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
So before we go, is there any of you who are doing the Thursday night book club? Are we still thinking about going to the play?
I have tickets.
Ooh.
I bought 6 extra tickets.
Okay.
So you guys can let me know if anybody wants to go, and I'll talk about it tomorrow night too.
Okay.
Poor Lauren and Colin, they were the masterminds of the whole thing.
And now you can't go?
And they can't go.
I forgot that it's the same day as Louise's second birthday party.
Oh, no.
So last week after I shared the idea, then we hung up the call and Colin was like, I think that that's the day that we're having Louise's party. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I've got it.
Yeah, I have 6 extra. I'm gonna go and hope my daughter wants to go because she's a fan of the book. And then I have six extras at a subsidized rate, and I'm happy to drive. I can take 6 people in the minivan.
What is
So-
the subsidized rate?
We can talk about it,
Okay.
but
Offline.
it can be
And
a
for those of us-
subsidized city.
for those of us who haven't been in the book club, what and when is this play, Charity?
So it is at 4 o'clock at the College of DuPage. I feel like Lauren should talk about it.
Which day?
August 20th. It's a
Okay.
Saturday.
Oh, it's the 30th,
The
20th.
20th.
August 20th. Oh, I thought it was July 30th.
I think it's August 20th.
The 20th.
Yes,
is-
August
And this
20th.
is the Great Divorce.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a play
Yes.
of the Great Divorce.
Oh, the book you all were reading.
Yeah, and
Oh,
there's still
good.
tickets. Like I said, I bought 8, and we can do that as subsidized
Okay.
as it needs to be. I was gonna suggest maybe $20, but if that's out of people's range,
Oh.
we can, please don't let that be a barrier
Are
to
you
people.
kidding me? I went
But,
online yesterday and looked at it, and they're going, the ones that on the 30th are going for $120.
There are seats that
Wow.
are that, anyway, but I have 6.
Okay.
So let me know. I think, well, probably people who've been doing the book club, and then we'll open it up. But then there's still a few more available. So if we get a big response and people want to go, I was telling Lauren I bought 6 extra, and I'm like, hopefully people want to go, or I'll be scalping them in church parking lots with my trench coat, like handing out tickets. But yes. So Diane, you were interested.
But wait, I'm not part of the book club.
No,
I'm trying
no,
to
I
read the book.
included
But you
when
were
I
always
counted.
included.
Yeah,
I
Anyway.
counted you.
We
so-
already actually talked about you coming with us.
Yes,
last
you were
week.
in the discussion, so please, if you're interested. And
All
like I
right.
said, okay.
This is great. And the last other announcement, sorry, I didn't mean to cut that one
No,
off.
you're good. It's all right.
Is that the Inquirers class, which is for newcomers, is returning after Labor Day. And it's what I'm going to do to get away to offer something alternative to the evenings is to do a Sunday lunch at my house.
Oh, nice.
Starting Sunday, September 11th. And it runs for 3 consecutive Sundays, 11th, 18th, 25th.
Oh,
And the Inquirers class is for anybody that's new. Anybody can go. You don't have to be new. But it's designed for newcomers.
is it
Sound
gonna be
good?
kind of repetitive of what we did last year, or is it?
Did you do the one it was summer, it was on Zoom? It would be a repeat of that. And it's in
I don't do,
person. You can always take it again, though.
I don't know if I thought we were here. Isn't that the one where I fixed Chinese chicken?
That was
salad?
Praxis. That was.
Oh,
different.
Praxis, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm strongly considering, and I haven't gotten there yet, of this is the fall class would be not Praxis. I always alternate. It would be a pop culture related one. So I'm thinking, Brendan, I'll see if you like, I want a thumbs up from you of finally doing the Lost class that I had.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes. All right. So that'll be the evening class with dinner and all, and it'd be about the TV show Lost and religion. And all
That sounds
so
great.
there you go. All right.
Okay,
Fun stuff, right?
okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all, and
Okay.
we'll see you in 2 weeks.
I'll see some of you tomorrow
We'll
night.
see some of you tomorrow night. Right?
Okay.
I just was
Bye.
doing I just
Goodbye.
went to a Bible, to a book club last night for